Namaste. Sivananda Supatha Foundation, Bhimanipatnam, is devoted to take forward Sadguru Sivananda Murtiji's mission by publishing his speeches and writings and holding seminars, symposiums and conferences on various themes relating to Sanatana Dharma, Bharat culture and its history besides socio-cultural and spiritual topics. In pursuance of the above objectives, we organized an international symposium on reconstructing the cultural history of Bharat at Integral Institute of Advanced Management, Visakhapatnam, on February 18th and 19th, inviting reputed scholars from Bharat and abroad to enlighten us on various themes relating to the problems and perspectives in writing Bharat cultural history on truthful and purposeful lines. The erudite presentations of these scholars are presented in this channel. Kindly subscribe and encourage us in our endeavor to promote Sanatana Dharma.
Now may I request Francois Gautier, he is again continuing the same idea about what is history, the present history, the modern history, the current history. So I request Francois to come over here.
Namaste everybody. Today is a very auspicious day actually. It is Shivaji Maharaj Jayanti, the birth of Shivaji Maharaj. I wanted to start by showing a small video because I'm building a museum of history in Pune, and today we have a lot of celebrations because that museum is dedicated to Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. So this is the entrance of the museum, and I wanted that people go to a temple before they enter the museum because the museum is a temple of knowledge. So the first thing that people see is a statue of Bharat Mata and Shivaji Maharaj. And we have a pandit there on the right side. You can see a pandit. He's already being trained. So every day there are aartis and pujas. So people come to the temple, they have the darshan, and then they go to see the museum where there are today 24 pavilions, each one with a unique exhibition. So, first I would like to pay my homage to Sadhguru. I didn't know him actually. Yesterday we were taking to the ashram and there was a temple there dedicated to Mahalakshmi. Go back bringing him with me. Now the death of a guru is something dramatic. I met the mother of Pondicherry when she was alive. She was a French lady, and I was there when she passed away. When the guru passes away, something physical, immediate, intimate withdraws from the atmosphere. And I felt it when the mother went away. That presence, that we felt when she was there, the guidance left, and people were left to themselves. And so the death of a guru is a great tragedy, whatever people say. The sacrifice of a guru being born on this earth is something extraordinary. Okay, now I come to my talk. So my talk is about the colonial psyche of modern India intellectual history writers. I'm not a historian. I came to India by accident or by fate. I drove from Paris to Pondicherry when I was 19 years old and actually landed in Delhi and spent my first night in the Shriminda ashram in Delhi. And I felt the moment, in that first night, I felt the presence of Mother India, that in this country, what is called India, there's a physical presence, there is a body that emanates a presence. And I felt this in different places, of course in Pondicherry, in Delhi, in Almora, in Jaipur. I felt that this body that is India has a physical presence. Now, India has been colonized. The first answer is India has been colonized and the minds of the Indians is still colonized. I see today as a white man, Catholic born, Catholic educated, a lover of India, that still today, after 75 years of independence, much of the Indian mind is colonized, that it thinks in patterns which were established by the British. All of you know about Macaulay. Macaulay was the Pope of British education, and he decided that the British were so few, and India was such a huge country that if they needed to rule India, they needed Indians who would think like them. So the idea of Macaulay was to send Indians to British University, Oxford, Cambridge, and so many others, so that they would come back with a British way of thinking. And in that way, Macaulay was extremely successful, because there's a whole generation after him and after independence of Indians who think Western. You are an exception. The people who are here are exception. The people who were there yesterday are exception. But most of the Indian youth is shaped in a way that their mind is westernized. They have no idea about their heroes, their heroines, the great poets, the great warriors. Like as a Frenchman, I'm educated in Napoleon and Victor Hugo, and so being French means being proud to be French. From kindergarten, we are taught to be proud to be French. The same is true in the United States, though it's a much more recent country and they have a much smaller history. That whatever the ethnicity, whatever the religion, most Americans are brought to say, "Oh, I'm proud to be American." But this is not true today in India, because Indian history books, Indian curriculums are still Western-based. What Mr. Nehru did in 1947, that he took everything that was British, education, the constitutional system, the judicial system, everything, and transposed it into India without adapting it to the Indian psyche. As many of the speakers have said, and I think that gentleman there was a remarkable speaker, India has a very ancient history, a lot of knowledge. I, a white man, whatever I say today, I've learned it here in India. We talk about the Western influence on, Indian intellectuals and historians, but whatever I've learned, whatever I say today, and people come to me and they say, "Oh, you're great, you're doing some great things," but whatever I learned here. I owe India, whatever its fault, because of course India has many faults. I owe India whatever I know today. Whatever I practice, pranayama, meditation, hatha yoga. So I have gratefulness of India, but most Indians have no clue. Today is Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj's birthday. Once I printed his exhibition in Pondicherry, in Auroville, and the gentleman who printed the Hindu, nice gentleman, had no idea. He thought he was Shivaji the actor. So this man, Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, fought the most powerful army in the world, maybe 300, 400 men, and he actually defeated Aurangzeb, because after he died at a very young age, the Mughal Empire started to crumble. But people know in India more about Aurangzeb than about Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. So my whole endeavor through my books, articles, this museum that I'm doing now, is to tell Indians, I, a white man, Catholic born, to tell Indians, look at your own history, look at your own people. You have such great heroes and heroines. I mean, in France we have Jeanne d'Arc. There's one heroine, Jeanne d'Arc was she was a woman warrior from a village who fought the British, and then she was burnt at the stake by the British with the collaboration of some of the French clergy. But in India there are hundreds of heroines. In the museum we're showing showing Rani Chennamma. She's from Karnataka. She was an extraordinary queen who fought the British. Rani Akabat fought the Portuguese. Rani Durgavati fought the Mughals. There are hundreds of heroines in India. But the idea that Westerners and even Indians have of Indian women is that, they're persecuted, they're burned, they're raped. Of course, that rape in Delhi a few years ago did so much damage to the Indian image. But there is no country in the world, and again I come back to that temple I went yesterday, the Mahalakshmi temple. There is no country in the world, in spite of problems, in spite of excesses, where women are so worshipped, where it is recognized that the energy is feminine, that without Shakti, Sri Aurobindo said, without her I manifest not. Without her I manifest not. So there is no country in the world that worships so much women, and its history proves. So how do Indian writers keep on, of course Romila Thapar and Irfan Habib and so many others, how do they keep running down their own heroes and heroines and propping up, tyrants like Aurangzeb or Tipu Sultan or whatever? Of course, we talked about Macaulay. Now, the second problem is Indologist, Western Indologist. Now, whether it is United States, Audrey Truchke, Michael Witzer, whether it's in France, Christophe Jaffrelot, there's a whole generation of Indologists. Now, Indologists are supposed to teach their countrymen who are generally very ignorant about India. In my country, France, for instance, most people are good-willing, but they're very ignorant about India. They have cliches, picked up here and there. Books like The City of Joy, promote poverty. Films like the Millionaire. I forgot the title. Also promote an image of poverty and caste. Slumdog Millionaire, yes. So people are very ignorant. So Indologists normally are paid by the state. In my country, France, Indologists are subsidized by the French government to enlighten the ignorant Frenchmen about India. So instead of enlightening them, what they do? They run down India. Since I've become a journalist, they've hounded me because I used to work for a very prestigious French newspaper called Le Figaro, one of the major papers. So then in Le Figaro I started writing, I did a whole series on religions in India, I talked about Islam, So they started hounding me. They're obsessed with two things, poverty, caste, and Hindus. They have demonized Hinduism. There's a guy in France called Christophe Jaffrelot. Before him there were others, some of them died now. Now, this guy has spent his whole life demonizing Hindus. His entire life has been, he's a very learned man, and pretty young, he must be 50, 55, and academic, of course. All these people have a lot of academic credentials, They speak well, they're very well researched. So his entire life has been spent demonizing Hindus. Even the Hindu diaspora, he wrote a book about the Hindu diaspora, how the Hindu diaspora is funding Hindu fundamentalism through the BJP and Mr. Narendra Modi. Of course, Mr. Modi has been their sworn enemy for a long time and remains today their sworn enemy. And it saddened me that today, because I've been writing in French, I've been writing books, articles for so long now, I don't think I made a difference. These people still rule the roost. Whenever there are elections in India, whenever there is a catastrophe or something important, they're called by, to write articles, they call on TV, and they spew the same venom about Mr. Narendra Modi being, a very dangerous man, about Hindu right-wing nationalism. And I'm helpless. I'm helpless. And I think, oh man, I've been fighting so long, and, and there is no difference. So it's like, because the French government is interested to invest in India. Recently, Mr. Macron was a guest of honor of the Republic Day, and we were happy about that. But the French government feeds these people, and these people in turn are telling the French government, no, don't invest in India, it's a dangerous country. Look, there is Hindu fundamentalism, minorities are persecuted, Muslims are persecuted, they remove Article 370. How many people in India know about Article 370? How many people in India know that, Kashmir, what is called Kashmir, divided in 3 states, Ladakh, which is predominantly Buddhist, Then there is Jammu, which still has a thin Hindu majority. And then there's the Valley of Kashmir, where in 1900 there were still 1 million Hindus, and today there may be, a handful of them. Not many people understand that, but in France they have no clue. So they say, these Indologists will say Article 6 has been removed, it's such a persecution of Muslims. But actually, do people know what Article 6 means? It means that Kashmiri Muslims could go all over India, and indeed in India they have cornered the souvenir market. Even in Auroville, which is a faraway place, now the souvenir market, or they're Kashmiri Muslims. So they could go over India, buy land, set up shops, set up business. But Indians could not go to the valley to Kashmir. Isn't it an injustice? Isn't it an absolute injustice? So Mr. Modi did something right. He set up a wrong right. But we keep on explaining that, we keep on writing articles, but it makes no difference. It makes no difference. And I see even my own newspaper, Le Figaro, that the removal of Article 70, the inauguration of Ayodhya, which is something extraordinary. I've been covering Ayodhya, for the time when Mr. Advani and his Karsevak brought down this empty mosque, which was like a challenge to Hindu pride. I was there, and Mr. Advani was a good friend of mine. So I've been covering Ayodhya, and I thought that, this gives some pride back to Hindus. It's very important, Hindus need to become proud of themselves, Then historians like Irfan Habib and Romila Thapar and so many other intellectuals who are still running down their own culture, their own history, will have no place. They will be automatically removed. But at the moment, the political correct still rules in India, unfortunately, Though there is a big chance if Mr. Modi came to power, there's a big chance. So what is important, I think, is to have a new generation of Indologists who actually understand India, know India, and can go back to the West, and propagate, a more truthful image of India, a more positive image of India, which is not the case. So I have met 4 of the education ministers since Mr. Modi came to power. And to each one of them I said, you need to start a school of Indology in India, bring young Western Indologists, from every country and every Western country in the world, try and take them to Benares, set your center in Benares, show them a little bit of Sanskrit, of temples, of Indian culture, let them mix with the people and get a feeling of India. And then you send them back, and slowly they'll climb the ladders, and eventually you'll have a generation of Indologists who are positive towards India. Mrs. Irani was a rather, dynamic person. She was the one who said, yeah, it's a good idea. And she selected a retired lady who was a secretary in the education ministry, but then she fought with her. She tends to be a little, gets a little angry sometimes. But then the other education ministers, till the present one, Mr. Pradhan, Damana Pradhan, they have no clue. It's so sad that this Minister of Education, they have no clue about their own Indian history. Absolutely no clue. Absolutely no clue. So, unless you change Indian education in the curriculums, in the universities, unless you teach children, right from kindergarten, about Shivaji Maharaj, about Rani Chennamma, about Kalidasa, probably one of the greatest poets ever on the history of the planet, that even translated from the Sanskrit to English, you can see the height of his poetry. Sri Aurobindo, the philosophy of Sri Aurobindo is probably the greatest, one of the greatest modern philosophy that integrates, yoga with a modern outlook, And that this is taught, how are you going to stop the greatest brain drain in the world? Because the greatest brain drain in the world is that of Hindus. From the 60s, Hindus have started going abroad, sending their children abroad. And I'm not saying it's wrong. I understand, that Hindus want their children to have a good education. But what happens is that they go abroad, they study abroad, then they get a job, they have children, grandchildren. they take the American nationality or British nationality, and they lost to India. And this brain drain is continuing today because I'm a great admirer of Mr. Modi. You know, I've been defending him since 2002. But in terms of education, it has been changed in homeopathic doses. You know. You need a revolution. Because I remember with Molimana Joshi, who was also a great friend of mine, and I admire him and respect him a lot, he started to try to change education. There was such an outcry, you know. There was such, and that was, you know, in 2000, I don't know, 2003 or 2, before the BJP lost power. There was such an outcry when he wanted to introduce Bande Mataram in the beginning of the sessions. So he had to back out. So 20 years later, you know, the minorities in India have been more radicalized. When I came to India, actually, you know, you could see Muslims and Christians who were still integrated. There was still some integration, you know. Many of them had Hindu names, you know, and they would go to temple. But since then, there'll be such a radicalization of the Christian and Muslim community in India that the longer Mr. Modi waits to do that revolution, to say, okay, now from today, you know, we're going to take out the Aryan invasion from the history books, you know, because this is the foundation of today still, when it's been proved, you know, wrong. You know, many have written, including Westerners like Michel Danino and David Foley, they have written books about this and shown that even the genome, the genes of Indians, there have been genetic research to show that Indians share the same genome. You know, that from the south to the north, from Brahmin to Dalits, all Indians have the same genes. So this is one more, you know, stone to bring down but it is still the foundation book of the foundation of every history. Unless, you know, Mr. Modi says from today, and his minister will not do anything unless he says. This is how it has become today, that, you know, no one will raise their voice unless Mr. Modi says so. This has a good and bad effects. So anyway, unless Mr. Modi says, from today, you know, you will remove alien invasion theory from history books, you know. We stop making of Ashoka the great hero that Nehru made him because he's supposed to have converted to Buddhism after seeing the horrors of the Kalinga battle, which is not true. You know, I have written a book called An Entirely New History of India, and I do speak, there's an entire chapter of Ashoka, which deals about the struggles between the Jains and the Buddhists at that time, and why Ashoka converted to Buddhism. It was a political move and not a religious move. So, unless Mr. Modi introduces that revolution, we will continue to see this great brain drain of the best Hindu minds, you know, because they find a better education abroad. Because in India, they just get a westernized education. You know, unless, you know, Shivaji Maharaj is made a national, pan-national hero, the way Napoleon in France, you know, I was brought up and born near the Napoleon tomb in the Invalides. My parents used to live there. So I know how much Napoleon is worshipped in France. You know, every year there are books, and there's a fantastic museum in Paris, in Les Invalides, on Napoleon. If you go there, you should visit that museum. When I first came to Pune, I was teaching an art of living course. My wife and I are teachers of Sri Ravi Shankar's techniques. And I thought there would be a Napoleon-like museum in Pune, Shivaji Maharaj. So I asked my driver after the course, please take me to the Shivaji Maharaj Museum. So he took me to a museum which was called the Kelka Museum. I don't know how many of you know Pune. In the Kelka Museum, there was not a single exhibit on Shivaji Maharaj. I was shocked. Actually, it's a very complicated story. The Congress divided. You know, in Maharashtra, there are, you know, they all admire the Shivaji Maharaj, but there are Brahmins who are the holders of the knowledge. They're the one who preserved the knowledge about Shivaji Maharaj. They're the one who wrote the books. And there are also converted followers of Ambedkar and converted Buddhists, you know, who also follow Shivaji Maharaj, but they're against Hinduism. So when I started building the museum 10 years ago, I got threats from these people saying, don't show anything about the Vedas, don't show anything about Mother India, don't show anything about Hindus, because they are followers of Shivaji Maharaj, but they're against Hinduism. Complicated, huh? So what I did a small shrine with a photo of Ambedkar and a statue of the Buddha. And slowly I guess some of them came to see the museum and saw that I was a genuine admirer of Shivaji Maharaj. So the threat stopped. So it's important that these two things happen. One is that a new school of Indologists is brought to India and then sent back to the West, so that the image that Westerners have of India is slowly bettered. And the second is that education needs to change in India. And as I said, this is an absolute revolution which would need tremendous courage, because the backlash would be, of course, tremendous and maybe violent. But it needs to be done. Unless you make Indian children proud, if only in sports, look at the Chinese, I mean, whatever, I have written a lot about China, against China, but look at the Chinese. The Chinese are so proud of being Chinese that they excel in every field, including sports. The Chinese were nowhere in sports in '72 when Nixon went there, and America started investing into politically and economically in China. But today, the Chinese are some of the best in the world in sports. They had no clue about athletics, swimming, gymnastics. They are extraordinary. In India, because children are not so proud, except for cricket. I'm not a great fan of cricket. I know all of you are fans of cricket, but I think that cricket kind of, it's a vampire sport that hogs all the limelight, the media attention, the sponsorship. Everything is hogged by cricket for 11 players. We keep on playing. I don't know how they have time to train, because they keep on playing from test to test, from this to this, never stops. So unless you make Indian children proud, how will India become the superpower that we all want to be? Sharmindo, Swami Vivekananda, they all said, India needs to be the spiritual leader of the world. Okay, it's happening already. Hatha Yoga is now practiced by, 1 in every 3 Americans. Meditation is beginning to be known because of scientific studies, is that, it calms the mind, it regulates the blood system, it soothes the heart. Ayurveda is beginning also to come to the West. In my country, France, I have written a book on Ayurveda, and people start to know a little bit about Ayurveda. But unless Indian children are being proud of their culture, and their history, and their heroes and heroines, India will not become a superpower. India cannot become a superpower, because that brain drain will continue, and also they will lack that thing to, I'm Indian, I'm Indian, let me make my country proud, let me excel in whatever field I am, let me bring something to my country. As a lover of India, as a defender of Hindus, because all my life I've been a defender of these great people that are the Hindus, one of the most persecuted people in the world, one of the most tolerant, the last people who hold this knowledge, who am I, what happens when I die, what is Dharma, what is Karma, what is an avatar, how God manifests himself or herself at different times, to help humanity with different scriptures, This knowledge is only held by the Hindus today. I think before it was known in Egypt, in Greece, Mesopotamia. But it's been lost because of invasions, because of, the colonization, both European and Islamic. This knowledge is alone in India. If India dies, people say, Dharma is eternal. I'm not so sure, I'm not so sure, unless Hindus themselves, start taking their own destiny in their hand. And I think Mr. Modi began this process, but he needs the collaboration of all Hindus. If you see this Swachh Bharat movement, which was an extraordinary initiative, looks so basic, but India needs to clean itself, Again, if you want to become a superpower, India needs to clean itself. But I see today, when I go to Sri Ashram in Bangalore, or even in Auroville, that the contractors were paid by the government to get rid of the trash. They go and dump it at night, in the Kanakapura Road in Bangalore, or in Auroville, because Auroville there are very remote places. So the people didn't collaborate. Unless Indians stop cheating. You know, I don't think Indians are taxed more, though I had a conversation with my Hindu friend the other day. I don't think Indians are taxed now more than, you know, French or Americans, you know. But unless they stop cheating, the demonetization was also another wonderful move. You know, it was a wonderful move. But people continue to cheat today. If you need to buy a flat, you need to pay 40% in black at least, you know. Unless and I'm talking about Hindus here, not about Muslims and Christians. The biggest enemies of Hindus are Hindus. The biggest enemies of Hindus have been and still are today Hindus. We speak about, you know, the Indian historians who were influenced by the West, but the greatest betrayers of Hindus have been Hindus. I mean, even from Alexander the Great, you know, the king of Taxila allied with him to, you know, Vijayanagar, the last great, you know, Hindu empire. Hindus have always been betrayed by Hindus, and today this is still true. United States, in France, in UK, you know, these Western ideologies find an echo in the Hindu intellectual who say, yes, you know, yes, it is true. India is still ridden by caste, you know. Brahmins are still killing, you know, Brahmins, you know. My foundation made a film on Brahmins because we did a study on Brahmins and we found that many Brahmins actually live below the poverty line, that priest temples are paid a pittance, you know, that many of the toilets in Delhi are manned by Brahmins. Many coolies in the New Delhi railway station are Brahmins, you know. So, but that myth of the Brahmins exploiting, you know, the Dalits is still very alive in the West, you know. So, and propagated by Indians, you know, Ramachandra Gua and so many others, you know, Rajiv Sardesai. So the biggest enemies of Hindus are Hindus. Educate your children, you know. I know you do it yourself, you know, but where is the youth? You know, I see that Indian youth today is drifting away from its values. The majority of them. When I go to the US, I give lectures in big American universities. Last time I did one in Atlanta. There are 2,500 Indian students in the Atlanta University. It's one of the biggest universities in the US. You know, I did a lecture on the need to rewrite Indian history. I got 11 people out of 2,500. It was widely, you know, advertised, and they're not interested. They're not interested. So unless you change education here at home and make your children proud to be Hindus, you know, and teach them that Hinduism is not a retarded, you know, spirituality, but it's the one that holds the last knowledge in the world, you know. Unless you teach them that, and only Mr. Modi can do that today. Only he can do that, because, you know, whatever, again, I'm a great admirer of Mr. Modi, but it's a one-man show now. You know? So unless Mr. Modi tells his education minister, you do this and you do that and you do that, and they are ready to sustain the onslaught, you know, the backlash both within India and outside India that will follow about Hindu nationalism wanting to rewrite books, or, you know, Hindu fanaticism wanting to impose Hindu Dharma. Explain to your children what is true Hinduism. What is the great spirituality that props up this religion that people call Hinduism? Unless they understand that, you know, they will also think that Hinduism is a, you know, backward religion. So, very important, one, school of Indologists in India, and slowly, you know, they will go back to the West and change the image of India to the West. Two, change education. Namaste.
Thank you very much, Professor Francios. No, we have given him this particular topic of colonial psyche for the writers on history. But you know, it tells us the fact that it is not simply what ails Indian history, but what ails India and Hindus. So he spoke so well about what's happening here, and it's very clear that the very idea that India is great, is to be known to us through some Westerners. Only when Cunningham said that there are great things in India, so we started knowing that there are such great things in India that we should go and see. And again, the same Western scholars, they are condemning India after 1850s, 1860s. So in the colonial historiography, there are different stages of development of the historiography. Till 1870 it was such. So they wrote very favorably. They were in fact surprised to see what is found in India. But after 1870s they have been very cautious, and the imperialism guided them, and it controlled them. Not only guided, controlled them. And by the time we have come up to 1920s, by Harappa times, the things have changed. So again after 1930s and 1940s, so the casteism has come into India only in 1930s. And the reservations and Dalits movements, all these things have been creeping in into Indian psyche. So see, now again we are to be told that we are not a very great nation. We have so much of literature, we have great poets and great Veda is there and everything is there. This also we are taught by somebody else. So that is the plight of Indian psyche. So we are to be told that we were great, we are to be told that we are nothing, and we are again to be revived that you are something. So this is what is going on in the Indian intellectual field, which has been very clearly, and he has been speaking on this issue and writing on this since the last 30 to 40 years, and we know his contribution to our great country and the nation, and he has individually and personally, he has been sacrificing all what he has for preserving and protecting Indian heritage. In Pune, his exhibition, his museum, is a very great museum, and we are very happy to see a glimpse of the museum, the entry, how he has given this entry. So we should be really proud of having him and his museum in Pune. If there is any opportunity, whenever you go to Pune, I recommend you to go to his museum first, instead of going anywhere else. Where you go, you will know what is India, what was India, what is India, what India should be. So these three ideas, for our children, we should take the children, youth, to the museum and then have them the real education. He has given a very good statement that museum is not just a museum to see. Museum is an institution which educates you. So we are very grateful, sir, and you have spent so much of time with us. Yesterday he was here with us the whole day and participated in the proceedings, and now also he has been sitting here with us. We are grateful to Francios, and he was very busy in Auroville these days, this 1 week. And with great difficulty, he has been here, and he has given his full time to us. Thank you, Francios.